Hello, my students. I'm Miss Tania Poveda. Welcome to Entrepreneurship class. So remember that we are studying about investigation techniques. And just in case you forgot about that, let's take a review and remember what investigation techniques are. What are they? They are different ways to get information from the market. And remember that market is a group of people, possible clients. You already know about client profiles, so you know much better what I'm talking about. Okay, it's very important we remember this again, and this is that use the most accurate technique according to the market. Each market is unique and different, so know your market first and choose the best one. Choose the best investigation technique according to the group of people. Okay? So, knowing this, the first technique that we studied last week was a survey. What is a survey? It's a method of gathering information from a number of individuals, known as a sample, in order to learn something about a larger population from which the sample is drawn. Do you remember what a sample is? Yes, it's that little group of people that you select from the total population. Because when you are using this technique, it's kind of impossible to do it with the whole population. And I remember that one of the examples I use is that in case you want to sell a product in Guayaquil and you have 4 million people living here, it's kind of hard to investigate each person. First of all, it's going to be extremely expensive because you have to pay for researchers, you have to pay for paper, then data analysis, reports. So the first thing is that it's going to be really expensive. And the second reason is that it's going to take like forever. Okay, so that's why we choose a sample. And some of the examples we had as a survey was mail, like physical mail, receiving letters in your house, for example, or envelopes in your office. The most popular ones nowadays is the online service. Face-to-face service, those that people are in front of you with a folder asking you questions, probably taking notes. And telephone service. When you call and in the end they ask you like, please wait and answer these questions. Like when you call to the cell phone company, for example. Okay, so this is just a little review about what we're studying right now. Today, we're going to start with the second investigation technique. Something very important is that the order is not saying that one is more important than the other. No, this is just a random order. Okay, so we're going to continue with interviews. But today we're going to do the first part because it's kind of a long chapter. So I decided to divide it into two and not make it that long and boring. Okay, so let's continue with interview. As you can see in this picture, there are two people talking. Probably one is making questions to the other. And it's extremely important that we distinguish that we are not talking about an interview for a job. Some people confuse interviews when we're talking about marketing in this class and confuse interview with a job interview. When you go for a job and you have to dress up and then you have your CV or resume with you and then you talk to a manager or to a human resources manager and then you apply for a job. No, it's not that, okay? This is a market research interview. It means that you're going to have an interview to people to know what they think, what they know about the product, maybe to test a product too, to try it. So you can learn from that person their opinion and what you should improve about your product or service. Okay, remember that. This is the concept of interview from a marketing view, from market research view. This is not an interview for a job. Okay? So I want you to read this carefully. I want you to pay attention to this. You're going to watch a video later, and this is going to be in the video, but I like it so much that I decided to put it here too. So let's read together. This is what should happen during an interview. Converse like a talk show host. Think like a writer. Understand subtext like a psychiatrist. Have an ear like a musician. So this is exactly the attitude you should have during an interview. In this case, I'm going to treat you like you are the researchers. You are not the market. You are not the client. You are not consumer of any product. We are learning as we are researchers. Okay. Do you remember I told you you are going to watch a video? If you have the chance right now, take a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper and write down these questions. If you cannot, you can do it later, or maybe you can pause the video and go for them. Or maybe you can see these questions on your phone, because I'm going to send the PPT file to your email. Have these questions with you on your phone or write them down on a piece of paper and pay attention to the video and find out the answers for these questions. It's a short video, maybe 6 minutes, it's not that much. So again, it's only 4 questions. Pay attention to the video and find out the answers. You don't have to answer the questions and send them to me, but you need to find the answers on the video so you can understand better what we're talking about today. So the first question is, what is interviewing a market research? I already told you, but you're going to find maybe a shorter answer on the video. Next question, why is it important to know the story? Okay, this is something I can't tell you yet because you must watch the video. Next question, mention 3 questions you shouldn't ask in an interview. And this is extremely important to remember because that's a very common mistake during an investigation in a market. And the last question, which is actually my favorite one, it's about silence. What do you understand by silence? And the question here is, why silence is important after asking a question? Okay? Because sometimes we can be talking to someone or asking a question and then we don't let that person speak. And we keep asking and asking and then we don't listen what they want to say. So that's why it's very important you keep an eye, your ears open to what people have to say. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, you see these 2 questions here? The first one says, what's wrong with this? And the second one is, would you rather use this current version or this new improved one? These are 2 questions that you may use on an interview during a market research. But here, after watching the video, you're going to be able to identify leading words, as we can read here on the bottom, leading words that are going to make people answer what you want, not exactly what they think. So pay attention into the video and then tell me, in these 2 questions, here on the left and here on the right, what are the leading words on each question? You got it? Are you ready? Let's continue.
Hi, my name is Tomer Sharon, and I'm a Google Search user experience researcher and the author of Lean User Research. I'm here to help you ask your customers, users, and potential customers better questions and get even better answers. Converse like a talk show host, think like a writer, understand subtext like a psychiatrist, and have an ear like a musician. This beautiful thing was said about interviewing people. An interview is gathering information through direct dialogue. Before you start an interview, though, ask yourself why before you get into the how to phrase the questions. Think about the reason you're there. What is it that you're trying to learn? A key aspect of interviewing people is getting familiar with the phenomenon that is called rationalization. Rationalization is when people, when asked about a certain situation that happened in the past, they tend to change reality a little bit to be perceived as good people, to be perceived as smart people. The example I have for this is if I ask you, would you throw a banana peel on the floor if nobody's looking? You would probably say, no, I don't do that. I'm not that kind of a person. But given the opportunity that no one is looking, 2 weeks from now, you might do that. And it's not because you're a bad person. It's not because you don't believe in what you say or you're trying to lie to me. You rationalize. You want to be perceived as a good person, as a helpful person. When you interview people, when you ask people questions, look for the story. This is the most important thing in an interview. Ask about stories, about things that happen. Ask about behavior. For example, so in that situation, and keep quiet and see what people say. Better yet, if possible, ask to observe behavior. If you're asking how they read email, how they check their email, ask them to show you that. Show me how you do that. Ask about perceptions, not because you're interested in them, but because they will help you again to pull out these stories. For example, what is the difference between X and Y? Not a very interesting question, but it might cause them to remember something about something interesting that happened. The most important thing in an interview is something that doesn't look like the most important thing. Follow-up questions. These will give you a lot of insight into what really happened. Why do you roll your eyes when you say that? What do you mean? Why do you call your phone my third arm? These are extremely helpful in understanding behavior. A few don'ts. Don't ask people about the future. 3 questions product developers tend to ask their interviewees are, would you use the product? Would you pay for it? And how much you'd pay for it? These are all very, very bad questions. Why? Because they ask people to predict the future. The problem is people have no idea. The even bigger problem is that they think they do have an idea and they answer. Another don't is about leading the witness. Don't insert your opinion into the questions you're asking and then biasing your interviewees into understanding what you're looking for and then give you the answers that you want, maybe. Don't intimidate. If you stand over the shoulder of someone who's sitting and then ask them a question, that is an intimidating body language. Don't do that. That will affect how they answer your question. Don't explain the question. Shut up and see what happens. When you ask a question, sometimes there's silence from the other side. Maybe the person is thinking. Maybe the person is trying to remember something. Maybe they don't understand the question. Keep quiet. Your intuition would be to explain the question. Don't do that. Just wait a few seconds and see what happens. People will fill in the gap. And finally, don't ask for feedback. This is another very popular thing product developers do during interviews. They describe the product or show up the product and then ask for feedback. If you have the product, ask people to use it. Even if you have a mock of it, ask people to use it. Use a pencil and use it. To sum it up, here's a little exercise about leading questions. I'm going to show you a few questions and let's talk about whether they're leading or not. First one, would you rather use the current version or this new improved one? The word improved is a way for you to insert your opinion and biasing people into the answer that you're looking for. How does this compare to the way Netflix works now? Now you're biasing people with their opinions about Netflix, good, bad, you're biasing them into an answer that is not neutral. Try and ask about the thing without comparing it to anything else. What did you think about that? When you ask that, you are forcing people to think about something they might not have thought about if you didn't ask. Don't do that. Would you click here to log in? It's exactly as saying, click here to log in. This is an extremely biased question. What's wrong with this? Again, inserting your thought that this is wrong and then expecting people to cooperate and say that it's wrong. Here are 3 resources I recommend for learning more about how to ask questions: a book, an article, and a video. The book is called Interviewing Users by Steve Portico. The article is 16 Interviewing Tips by Michael Margolis from Google Ventures. And the video is What People Are Really Doing by IIT's Institute of Design. Here's a quick recap. Look for the story. Ask about behavior. Better yet, ask to observe behavior. Ask follow-up questions, extremely important. Don't ask about the future. Don't lead the witness. And don't ask for feedback. But do ask great questions. Thank you.
Okay, I hope that you enjoyed the video. It's a really good video, actually. And I chose only these 4 questions that we're going to analyze right now. Okay, you were supposed to write down or to pay attention to these answers. So in red, we have the question, and in blue, I wrote down the answers or similar answers. It's okay if you don't have exactly the same. I'm not asking you to memorize anything, but to deduce, to pay attention. Okay, so the first one is, what is interview in a market research? And in blue, it says gathering. Gathering is collecting, picking up. Gathering information through direct dialogue. It means speaking face to face. The next question was, why is it important to know the story? Do you remember in the beginning he was telling you about the story? Okay, so it's like a background of the product and the user. The user could be the interview, the person who is answering the questions. Okay, why is it important? Because that will help you pull out information, to get information. Ask about things that happen and behaviors. Well, I moved the other question about the questions to the end because of space. So this one is actually number 4, but we're going to check on number 3 in a minute. And it says, why silence is important after asking a question? The most important reason is because you're able to listen. But here, he said 3 different reasons. Because the user might be thinking, because maybe it's remembering something, or maybe this person didn't understand the question. So 3 reasons: thinking, remembering, or didn't understand. And here are the 3 questions you shouldn't ask in an interview, because they talk about the future. And people don't know the future. So they're probably going to say any answer just to make you happy. And you don't want to be happy while doing a market research. You want to be realistic. So these 3 questions are, would you use the product? Would you pay for this product? How much would you pay for this product? So these 3 questions, probably the user or the person answering the questions is going to say yes to make you happy. So there are kind of questions you shouldn't ask. Got it? Okay, and here we have the leading words in these two examples. Run. When you ask, what's wrong with this? You are assuming that something is wrong and you're making the other person think that something is wrong. That's why. And on the second question, would you rather use the current version or this new improved one? So you are saying, what you are saying to this person is that this one is better because it's improved. So obviously the person is going to say, yes, of course, I want the better one, right? So in this case, the leading word is improved, assuming that the other version of the product is not good enough anymore. So if we pay attention to the questions and if we focus on what we really want to know, we will make so wonderful questions and find out the best answers during a market research. Well, so talking about tips for a good interview, we're going to analyze 16 tips for a good interview from Michael Margolis. But because of time and because there are too many, today we're going to talk about 8. The 8 first tips for a good interview. Are you ready? Okay, let's continue. So if you pay attention to the pictures, they are related to the tip. So probably that's going to help you to remember. I'm not going to read like everything, I'm going to explain, but you can read this later. Or you can pause the video and read or check on the PowerPoint presentation. So the first one is get into character. It means when you are going to do a research, you have to change your mind and be open to different questions and change. Probably if you are a critical or a skeptical person, or if you like to judge people, when you are working on a research, you should stop that. You should be really neutral, not expressing too much. Of course, you need to be friendly and have a nice attitude about a casual conversation. But that's going into the character. So you stop being critical, you stop being close-minded or skeptical, or you stop judging people and become on a neutral person. And we're going to talk about neutral person later. Number 2 is my favorite one. You see this little baby here smiling? Well, it's common behavior that children, one of the first things they learn is to smile because it's a way to communicate. It's the way children communicate that they are comfortable with you. They can't speak, they can barely move. So what they learn first, one of the first expressions they learn is smiling. So smiling for human beings is like the most basic communication way it exists. And probably it happens to you that when you go to a supermarket or you go to any place and you find someone, probably you don't remember the name of that person, but you smile to each other like you're recognizing each other, because a smile is a good way to open doors. So be friendly, be smiling, just enough, don't overact, okay? You don't need to act like you are crazy and smiling like crazy and laughing. You don't have to do that. Just a simple smile, opening a door to be friendly, and this person will be more honest with you with the answers. So number 1, get into the character. Number 2, smile. Tip number 3, and look at the face of this boy. Number 3, be fascinated. Okay, show the person you're talking to, show interest. This person probably is going to say things that you don't care, that you are not curious about, but people want to be listening. And if you want answers, you have to act like you care. And pay attention here I'm not saying you like you have to that you have to dislike what the person says, or no, because remember that you're a researcher, so you have to be like a number 4, neutral. You can't judge the person, you can't close the door because this person is giving you information. So show interest to what this person is saying. And in number 4, we have be neutral and encouraging. And you see this ear here saying, Okay, because we don't have to lead the person to tell us what we want. One of the things we can do to continue to the conversation or to the interview is some little sounds like, oh, things like that. So sometimes it's not necessary we're always speaking and making questions and talking. Those little sounds that are socially accepted are going to be enough to make the other person keep talking, which is what you want when you are doing a research, especially during an interview. Okay, so number 3, be fascinated, and number 4, be neutral and encouraging. Well, I already told you a little bit about number 5, don't judge or dismiss. Why is that? Do you like to be judged? Do you like to have your own personality and your tastes and the things you like probably different than most of people, and then someone comes and judges you? Do you like that? Probably you don't. I don't. And the thing is that, yes, there are things that we don't like, but when we're working as researchers, we have to remember that this person is going to be open. We want this person open to tell you the truth and how they feel and how they use the product, what they like, what they don't like. And if you're going to be judging the person, probably you're going to reflect that on your face, on your eyes, on your eyebrows, arms. And this person is going to be like, probably is going to lie because nobody wanted to be rejected. So instead of you judge me and you reject me, I'm going to lie to you. When we're talking about marketing and when we're talking about a research, we should consider that we're going to find a lot of people thinking and wanting different things than those we are used to. Okay, number 6, as you can see in the picture here on the right, it's build an arc. And that is connected with the smile, with the judgment, because this is the way we connect with the other person. Sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. But it's good that we get closer to this person so the other person is going to be comfortable enough to answer the questions. And yes, it works for all human relationships. Okay, number 7 and number 8 are pretty much the same. Number 7 says ask www questions. And I know you know which questions I'm talking about. I'm talking about like these questions here. What, why, how, who, etc. The other name of these W questions are information questions. Because if I ask you a W question, I'm going to find information about you. For example, where do you live? It's information. What do you want? Which is your favorite color? Which movie do you want to watch? And things like that. So I'm going to get open answers. Remember we talked about questions last week? About open-ended questions and closed-ended questions? Okay, so these ones, what kind of questions are these? You should know by now. Open questions or closed questions? Tell me. Open questions, right? Because I'm open to say whatever I want or whatever I need. And this connects with number 8 because it says ask follow-up questions. So it happens to you that someone asks you like, hey, how are you? And you say, yeah, I'm okay. And then this person continue talking without asking you, why are you okay? And you feel like, okay, why do you ask me if you don't care? Exactly. You should make the other person you care. So let's suppose that during an interview, you ask someone about the product, like, how do you feel with this product? And this person it says like, oh, I hate it, I don't like it. And then you are like, okay, how much will you pay? So this person is going to be like, I'm telling you, I hate the product. So the best question after this answer should be a follow-up question, like, okay, why do you hate the product that much? Or what does the product have that you hate it that much? So questions to follow up what this person just told you, because you care, because you want answers. And here in the end, it's related to what we just saw in the video about silence. Silence or a complete statement question like this, like you start a question and then you are like a silence here, so oops, silence here, so this person will complete the question. That's very important. So this is an example. So when that happen, you and the other person will feel encouraged to answer and say something else. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for your attention. See you next week. Bye-bye.